Hey guys, another day, another project. So in today's video, we'll be installing a Curtis trailer hitch on a Mazda CX-5. This is a 2020 CX-5, and I think the same approach applies to a handful of years in that similar range. Now, the reason that we're doing a trailer hitch on a small SUV like this is that in the future, over the summer and as the weather gets better, we'd like to be able to put a bike carrier on that for kind of the small excursions into town when we don't need the truck to do a lot of hauling. So we chose to do a trailer hitch mounted bike carrier for the ease of handling. Instead of trying to get all the bikes up on top of a roof or have them, stress the tailgate by hanging off the backside, I kind of like the approach of the trailer hitch instead. So nevertheless, follow along. We're going to install this thing. If you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments below. And if you like this type of content, consider giving us a thumbs up and subscribing. Now follow along and we'll get to work. All right, before I get started with any project, I like to lay out all of my hardware just to make sure I've got everything on hand that I'm going to need and I don't get halfway into things wishing I had something. So these are all the parts that come with this Curt kit. It's the 13315 kit for the Mazda CX-5, the 2020. It's got all of this hardware. I've laid it out and kind of pre-assembled it so that you can see the order that it's going to go on. We have a carriage bolt with kind of a backer plate along with a small, or with a flanged hex nut. We've got a set of hex bolts along with concave washers and a flat washer, and that's the same on both sides. And then we've got one more of those carriage bolt setups. The other thing that they provide in this kit is they've got some of these nut leaders, and I've not had to use these before, but they seem like kind of a clever way of getting things pulled through the system. I think it'll make sense when I'm starting to use them. And then they give you a few extra zip ties just to kind of relocate some of your wiring bundles as you do some of this work. To do this job, I don't know if it's completely necessary to lift up the back of your car. I prefer to give myself a little bit more room though, so that's why I did it. I'm looking at the passenger side of the vehicle right now. And the first step, what we're going to do is we're going to be removing this trim panel here. So there are two of these pop rivet type plastic fasteners on either end, and you'll take this trim piece off and discard it. You don't need it once you've got the trailer hitch on. At the same time, we're going to be taking off the exhaust. We're going to let the exhaust hang down. You don't actually have to disconnect it at the flange. You can let it just kind of suspend itself down a little bit, maybe use a bungee strap or something to keep it from hanging too hard. But you're just taking these vibration isolators off. It's the same on both sides. Again, this is the passenger side. Here's one of them. And then the other is this guy back here. So I'm going to spray some WD-40 on it or something similar just to ease that off so I can wiggle it out of place. And once you get that off, then this whole thing will kind of hang down, and that'll clear the space for us to get the hitch brought up underneath of it and installed. Well, it's lucky that we're getting rid of these clips, or this whole panel, because these clips are such brittle plastic. Man, oh man. No way you'd save those. You just have to replace them. But like I said, we don't need those for this next step, or for the installation of the trailer hitch. This panel's going away, so I'm not heartbroken that they're breaking. And there are these little retainer clips you can use to press them from the inside, like I'm doing with my flat blade screwdriver, and that'll release it from the main bumper plastic. The rocks in there. Let's see. Which one do we want to get that off? I suppose I should have sprayed the top. Came off way easy. Let's see if the other side does too. It's pretty easy too. These look like the same part number, so it probably doesn't matter too much which way they go on and off. We'll do that. So this was the passenger side done. You can see it's just free hanging now. I'll go over and do the driver's side. What I'm thinking I might do is put, just temporarily, I might just put a jack stand underneath the main exhaust pipe just to keep this thing from hanging too heavy upstream. So I'm back on the passenger side and I'm looking up at the frame rail of the Mazda. We've got the exhaust hanging down a little bit. I do have the jack stand underneath of there just because this thing could really go all the way to the floor. I don't want to stress the components upstream. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this clip off. This is for one wire harness. And then there's a piece of tape back here, kind of where my finger's pointing here. We're going to push that tape out of the way, cut it out of the way, because that'll actually expose one of the mounting holes for the trailer hitch. And the trailer hitch runs along this main beam here and out the back. From what I had seen, both the passenger and driver sides both were the same, with the same kind of tape and the same type of wiring harness there. I don't believe it's necessary to save these or keep them in check, because where this Curt hitch is going to be right over top of where these would have installed. So I think we'll zip tie them in place once this bracket or this wiring harness is out of the way. So we've got a threaded hole in there, probably a welded on nut, and that's what one of our fasteners is going to install into. This is looking at the bumper bracket on the passenger side. Right above this drain hole kind of feature, there's another piece of tape here that we got to get rid of. So I'm going to cut that out. It's kind of in a position where I can't film it very well while I'm doing it, but just so you know, there's this piece of tape. There's that other piece of tape towards the front of the vehicle. So here we are on the driver's side of the car. Like I said, same kind of setup. Now, if you don't have a special pry tool like this one, I mean, a flat blade screwdriver would do fine too. And since I kind of want to get a little bit cleaner setup as we're putting this all back together, I'm going to clip this harness or this cable tie, this anchor off of here, because we're just going to be zip tying that in place when we're all done. So make sure that you don't nick the actual cable. And then, as I mentioned, there's two places to get the tape out of there. We've got this one that's kind of further north towards the front of the car. And then we got this one further back, right next to where your bumper bracket is. So the one that's by your bumper bracket is just a through hole. There's no threading or no welded on nut. The one that's towards the front, though, that is something with a nut welded on the inside of the rail. So we'll thread into that. So I want to get this one a little bit cleaner, just so that the tape doesn't get in the way of my thread engagement. So when I had all those parts laid out, I was showing how they have the carriage bolts along with these little metal brackets. The brackets look like this, and what it's going to do is it's going to sit inside of this frame like this and act like a backing plate. The carriage bolt, because it's got this square end on it, will pass through there and hold in place like this. So this is going to be on the inside of your rail, extending through this stud back here, or through this hole. So it's going to act like a stud on the rail. Now, at first, that seems like, how are you going to do something like that? The way that they do it is, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of clever. I might have to keep this thing. So this is like a fishing wire, and you pass it through. You can bend it if you need to. just to get it to pass through this hole, through this access at the bottom of the rail. So you've got that through, and then what you do, they give it this pretty good length on it, so it's not like it's going to pop free too easy. You can pass it through the nut plate, or the backing plate, and then thread it onto your carriage bolt, like that. And all you're supposed to do, we'll see if it works, all you're supposed to do then is kind of just pull it through. You don't have to keep them lined up, and actually you don't want it lined up. Like, you don't want the carriage bolt inside of this when you're trying to do this at first, because it won't fit through this hole. But if you put it in piece by piece, it should work. I'll keep a finger on this end, like work it through. I don't know, I thought that was kind of a clever way of doing that. That's not something I would have ever thought of. So there you go. So looking at the passenger side of the hitch here, one of the things that's recommended, and I think probably another clever idea, is to just tape your flat washers in place on the back of this thing. You know, it's going to be kind of hard to coordinate getting those all placed while you're doing everything else. So I'm just going to do that. Maybe again, not a problem if you've got an extra set of hands to help you, but in my case, I'm just going solo on it. That tape there is not going to hurt anything down the road, so having it pressed between the washer and the vehicle won't be a problem. So here we go, we've got the hitch ready to be installed. To balance things on my scissor jack, I actually have my other tongue for my truck just placed in the backside temporarily to balance it out. I've got my washers taped in place on both sides, the driver and passenger side. So I've repositioned the ball on the back side of the hitch, and that's just because where the muffler is going to sit is back right where that ball would be getting in the way, where I had it set up temporarily before. So now with it acting kind of like a cantilever on the back of my stand, you can kind of wheel this thing into place. Just go in right where the exhaust was, and once it gets back far enough, there we go. Once it gets back far enough, use those fishing wires. You can push the carriage bolt back into the frame rail and feed your fishing wire through one of your taped on washers. That way everything kind of gets lined up before you lift it up into place. As you're doing this, you'll want to make sure that the cable bracket, or sorry, the cable bundles that you've got, that they're out of the way too, so that they don't get pinched as you're lifting this thing up. It's kind of handy to have this this ball on here, this tongue, even if temporarily, just because it allows you to kind of maneuver things with almost like a handhold. So we're looking up on the driver's side of the car. We've got this thing pretty closely located. I'm going to install this back one first, with the thought that I can hopefully hang everything kind of on it and pivot it into place as needed. There we go. I forgot to mention, so when you're putting these hex nuts in, these hex bolts, you've got a concave washer that's got teeth on one side and it's convex on the other side. So what you want to do, they're kind of a tension washer. As you compress them, they keep a tension on there, and the teeth will bite into the metal of the toe bracket, the toe hitch. So what you do is you set up the washer like that so that the teeth are facing inboard. So I'm not snugging these down yet. I've still got to get some flexibility out of this thing so that I can pull these carriage bolts through. I'm looking up underneath this Curt hitch, and I wanted to point out something before we get too far ahead. I haven't yet pulled that carriage bolt through, so it's still hanging a little low. And what I noticed is that when the hitch is pushed up towards the frame of the car, like this, it actually hides the nub of your muffler hanger. So you want to make sure that you put the rubber portion of that hanger back in place before you bring the bracket up. And that'll be the case for both sides. It looks like you probably have enough access still to the one that's further forward in the car, but the rearmost position gets hidden by this bracket, so you want to have that rubber in place before you install everything. There we go. Finally. Okay, I don't want to lose that, so I'm going to keep a finger on the back of that. Probably pull this guy off though. I don't know if I can unthread it very easily. And with him off, looks good. With that thing off, I'm going to keep a finger on the back of this to make sure it doesn't fall back into the rail. I'm putting one of these hex nuts on there. It's a serrated hex nut. It doesn't have to be tight because I still got to get everything aligned on the driver's side. But you see, I put this hanger back in place because I can't get it on after this thing's installed. Got this wire that's going to be managed after we get everything kind of back in place. So let's move over to the driver's side. There we go. Thank goodness. I'm getting a little bit tedious. Now that we got that side on, I'm going to keep a finger on the back side. Get this wire off of it. All right, we're looking up at it on the driver's side. I got that carriage bolt pulled through, like I was just talking about. On the front side, we've got the hex nut kind of loose. That was just to give ourselves some flexibility to rotate this thing around. And like I made a mention of on the passenger side, you want to make sure you get these muffler hangers in place because of the way the geometry of this hitch sits. You wouldn't be able to get them on at least very easily if you were to wait until after the hitch is done. Now, one of the reasons that I picked this hitch is that I kind of like how tight to the body it sits. It's not going to like sit way low. It was kind of a discreet looking one. Although to me, it's a little bit, I guess, comical to see a 2-inch hitch, 2-inch receiver on the back of a little SUV like this. Nevertheless, I think it'll work. So now I'm going to go around. I got to check what the torque spec is, but we've got those 2 hex bolts on the front side of the car, and then the 2 sets of carriage bolts with the hex nuts on the back side that I've got to torque down. Okay, I've got my torque driver set to 86 foot-pounds. On this carriage bolt hex nut, it's a 3/4 inch socket that I'm using. Let's see if I can get this guy on there. You have to run it a little while so we get it sucked in. Okay. That's 86 on a 3/4 inch. And then for the socket in the, or for the hex nut in the front, it's a 19 millimeter. I can't quite get to it. I have to use an adapter. But this isn't like a calibrated torque driver anyways. So I think it's probably gonna be all right. 86 foot-pounds though, just like the 3/4 inch nut in the back. Okay, so that side's done. Let me get the other side torqued down. Okay, so everything's torqued down now. We had to cut one of those clips. You remember there was that cable anchor going through a hole back there. I'm just going to use the zip tie that they provided and attach it to the hitch itself. That way the cable's kind of held up and away from where the exhaust is. I don't want to make this so tight as to put tension on it, or undue tension, but I do kind of want it up and out of the way like that. Just turn that off a little bit. Now, this whole side's torqued down, the other side's torqued down. We're about ready to get the muffler back into place. I'm just going to zip tie the other side, the other cable, in the same way, and then we'll get everything kind of buttoned up here. Okay, last step, just stretch these hangers back over the muffler. There you have it. Everything fits up there pretty nicely. It's well behind the muffler. I'm not going to get any kind of rattles or anything like that from the muffler vibrating on it. It's snug up there. Like I said earlier, I like how it looks around the back side. You know, it's not taking up a lot of space. It's kind of a discreet looking trailer hitch. And it doesn't extend so far as that you would catch your knee on it or something. Well, there you have it, guys. All in all, not a bad installation. It looks like it took me, just about an hour and 3/4, 2 hours long. What I really struggled with was getting that washer aligned behind the bracket and between the frame. That seemed like that was the biggest holdup for me in all cases. So maybe instead of taping the washer to the hitch, it'd be better to get it taped to the frame where the hole actually needs to go through and get everything aligned. I don't know, that might be an option for if you're going to attempt this project. I really do like how it looks though on the car. Obviously a trailer hitch is kind of one of those utilitarian things that doesn't have a whole lot of neat features to it or anything, but this Curt hitch seems to fit nicely up underneath and behind the bumper of the Mazda, so it's a discreet look. It doesn't protrude real far forward or down, so you're not going to like catch your knees or anything on it. I think it'll do the job fine. Like I said, I think a 2-inch receiver is a little overkill for a small car like this, but I suppose that just gives you more options down the road. Anyways, I hope you guys appreciate it. I hope you guys learned a little something. Hopefully you learned some tricks for your own projects. Again, like I said, if you guys don't mind, give us a thumbs up. I would appreciate that. Drop your comments down below, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Take care.